Good morning. My name is Scott Formo. I'm president of the Minnesota State College Student Association, representing over 100,000 students from Minnesota's public two-year technical and community colleges. Thanks to the efforts of Senator Claire Roebling and Representative Dean Erdahl, the issue of textbooks was examined in Minnesota legislature during the 2006 legislative session when lawmakers considered a bill directing the Minnesota Office of Higher Education to convene a task force to study and report on the cost of required textbooks at post-secondary institutions. Senator Roebling and Representative Erdahl, along with other lawmakers, recognized this problem and worked hard to educate people in Minnesota on the troubling trend of rising textbook costs and the effects it has on college and university students. I'd like to first say thank you to them and to invite them up to speak on their efforts that brought us here today and what their intentions were in bringing this issue to the forefront here in Minnesota. Senator Roebling.
Welcome to the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, my name is Scott Formo, president of the Minnesota State College Student Association. There's a couple of handouts that I believe the committee members all have. One is an unmarked up copy of just a textbook fact sheet. Another one is a copy of a PowerPoint that we put together with the intention of presenting some of the issues and why this legislation has, how this can benefit students and how it kind of works. In light of time tonight, I've been asked to keep it down, so instead of going through all 42 slides in the PowerPoint, I've incorporated on the front of the PowerPoint itself a table of contents which kind of outlines what the different areas of the PowerPoint are. I'd just like to run through that real fast. The slides on pages 3 through 5 are the current practices that bookstores, institutions, faculty members, students, and publishers are currently doing in the industry. Slides 16 through 17 is an example of a publisher's website. What I did there, just so that committee members are aware of the fact that one of the current practices that publishers are currently doing is that they do provide this information on their websites. And what I did is I took one of my textbooks, which is my economics textbook from McGraw-Hill. I went to their website and I went through all the different areas of the website that I would have to click on in order to find this information. And as you can see, it took 9 different slides to get about half of the information that this legislation would ask them to put all in one place so that the faculty members will know everything that they need to know ahead of time instead of having to go through multiple locations on the website to try to dig for the information. Slide 18 just talks about the publisher's websites, what we would like to see them do and what this legislation would direct them to do with the disclosure aspect of it. Slides 19 through 22 are just some current advertising examples. When you talk about other that currently advertise, or whether it be websites or whatever, they do put all of the information out front many times. For example, the first slide that I have there is new car sticker. When you go to purchase a new car at a car lot, you can look at what the basic provisions of that car are, what you get for it, what the mileage is, that kind of stuff. You can see what all the alternative options are. You can see what the prices are, what you're getting for what you're paying, and what you can add to it. Another example that I used is a fast food menu board. When you go to a McDonald's or something like that, you can look at their value meals and what they're suggesting to give you a better price, but at the same point in time, you list everything individually as far as if you just want a sandwich or something to drink. That's what the current advertising examples are, just showing other industries that use this type of practice when they're marketing their materials. And then slides 23 through 33 show some potential savings to students and how this legislation could actually benefit students. There again, I took 2 of my textbooks. One of them was the economic textbook that I talked about earlier, and the other one was a textbook a bundled package that's used for keyboarding in 2 different courses. There's a keyboarding 1 and keyboarding 2. And the potential savings had this information been available, had it been available to purchase separately, different things like that, how I could have saved over $200 on just those 2 textbooks alone had this legislation been enacted and been followed. Slides 34 through 39 just kind of gives you an overview of the legislation itself and what the different areas of the legislative pieces are. And the last 3 slides is kind of a summary talking about the educational aspect of it. And that's one piece that I feel is probably one of the most important pieces of this legislation, is that we've, coming out of the textbook task force recently, there was a report that I believe has already been through this committee talking about the best practices measures that everybody can take in order to lower the cost of students. We've worked with the Office of Higher Education, and they have agreed to work with the post-secondary institutions, students, faculty, publishers and all of the stakeholders, bookstores in this group, and create some educational materials as to how these best practices can be implemented, what the different provisions of this law are, and how you can actually make a difference for affecting students. And so that's where I think the educational piece is one of the biggest components, is making sure that everybody knows how the system should work properly in order to provide those savings to students. The publisher summary talks about why the importance of every stakeholder in this group, especially the publishers, why that disclosure piece is important, how it affects faculty members and the choices that they make when they're looking at what materials to have students purchase for the courses. And the last part is just a summary of the rental program as far as how a rental program can benefit students. We've done some different research from different rental programs across the country. One of them that sticks in my mind is the University of Wisconsin rental program, who currently charges, it's right, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's right around $75 to $80 per semester for their students for rental programs. And even when you get into the graduate degrees, it's between $8 and $9 per credit for the rentals of their books. Now when you talk about the testimony that you've heard earlier in the session here, students are spending anywhere from $400 to $600 a semester. If that cost could be cut down to under $100 for a full-time student, or even $8 a credit for graduate students, that could provide some substantial savings. Now I do realize that the upfront cost of a rental program, based off of the numbers we've heard coming up from national reports, the upfront cost to properly put together a rental program is about $1,000 per student. What we've tried to do with this piece of legislation is get at least one pilot program implemented in the state of Minnesota, one of the Minsky campuses. And through that, currently we're asking for the state to put part of that money up front, part of that $1,000 up front for the upfront cost to help Minsky purchase textbooks and start the program. But then through the rental fees and stuff that they could charge students, by then putting the rest of the money up front, they would be able to recoup that over a 1 or 2 year period. So that kind of gives you an overview of that also. We did also run this legislation just recently past the Student Advisory Council at the Office of Higher Education. And when we did, what that group is made up of is it's the leaders of the different student associations across the state. And from the Student Advisory Council, Daniel Moore, the chair of the University of Minnesota Student Senate, and their representative on the Student Advisory Council has approved moving forward with this legislation on behalf of the 64,000 students from the University of Minnesota. I have approved it on behalf of the 100,000 students from the Minnesota State College Student Association. Justin McMartin is in favor of it on behalf of their 60-some thousand students in the Minnesota State University Association. And Zach Baldwin from the private proprietary schools has also approved this. Kelsey, who is the other student representative on SAC, was unable to be at that meeting that day, so we have not heard from her yet. But 4 out of the 5 groups sitting on, or members sitting on that council have approved this legislation. So I just want to state that for the record, that we do have very strong student support from all across the state. And with that, I would be more than happy to answer any questions. And you may want to wait until after the testimony.
Are there any questions right now of the witness or of the proposal as amended here? If not, stick around and assurance phone. We'll